You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. I am absolutely amped and excited to bring Adam Scorgie, Scorgie Productions, and just an amazing dude. We were just kind of chatting it up a bit pre-show, and we're running into this show kind of going headstrong. We got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to just start it off with you, Adam. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate the time.
Oh, my pleasure, brother. Thanks for reaching out.
I'm so excited to learn more about yourself and share with our audience, not just what you're doing nowadays, right? But of course, that's exciting.
Yeah.
How you came into this world of entertainment and creative arts, as well as where you're at and where you're from.
Well, I have a little bit of an unorthodox past. I don't know if you looked this up, Joey, but I have I went to film school and stuff. I'm from Canada. I'm from the West Coast. I grew up in British Columbia mainly, but I did live overseas and stuff when I was younger. I went to film school in New York. And then when my father got ill in 2003, I came back to Kelowna, British Columbia, which is outside of Vancouver. And I inherited my father's strip club, which was called Cheetahs at the time. Yes, very unorthodox. I didn't go to proper film school. Like when I was in New York, I was going to acting school. I was wanting to be in front of the camera. Realized in my journey, they always say that thing, enjoy the journey, don't focus on the destination, because I originally thought I'd be in front of the camera and realized I was much better being behind the camera at solving problems. And kind of where those skills came from is that when I inherited a nightclub at 23 years old, and a strip club, as I clarified before, you're dealing with, in the world of British Columbia, you're dealing with motorcycle clubs, you're dealing with tourists, you're dealing with exotic dancers, you're dealing with the whole world. And that's really realizing recently in another interview, people were like, well, no wonder, Adam, you're able to navigate working with celebrities, pro athletes, filmmakers, audiences, because you were thrown into a world where you were dealing at such a high stakes at 23 with your father dying, dealing with that world. So like I dealt with gangsters, I dealt with motorcycle clubs, I dealt with tourists, regular customers. And as an owner, you have to make sure that they all kind of get along and drink their booze and pay money. And, there's not shootings and stabbings and explosions, and you have to make it operate. And you're dealing, in a world that is, I'm so glad I'm not in it anymore. Late nights, lots of booze. Like it's not a good world. Right. So, and ultimately left there with I don't have to look over my shoulder. I got great friends that are still part of the MC, and left that world. And that's where I really learned producing skills, is really kind of that, is always finding, I put creative hustler in my moniker, is by hook or by crook, I will find a way to get it done. Right. I will make sure we always deliver. I will make sure I take care of my crews. And yeah, I have no issue when people are like, Adam, don't you get nervous when you're pitching a celebrity or a pro athlete? I'm like, no, because at least the end consequences are not violence, which is what I had to experience, like, which could potentially happen when I inherited a nightclub. Right. There was one time when we had two big rival gangs like across from each other in the bar. I thought we were going to make national headlines. I thought for sure there was going to be like a shootout. Thankfully, there wasn't. Sides knew each other. We navigated things, came out of there smoothly. So navigating the film world, although you're dealing with some unethical people at times, is relatively easy compared to that. So that's where I got my unorthodox degree of making films.
That's so amazing. Cheetahs, the strip club.
Yeah.
Fans, there's a Cheetahs down here in San.
That is where the Cheetahs is an iconic name. That's why my dad took it, and he just added like an apostrophe S so that there would be like no trademark issues back in the 90s. Because there's a famous one in Vegas. That's where we got the name from, right? There's a famous strip club there too.
So
yeah.
But you're in the throes of it, right? Having a loss and overcoming that transition so young at 23, right? And becoming an entrepreneur and being able to manage these people. And immediately I go to Roadhouse, right? I'm thinking of the movie Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, just be Swayze, man.
Yeah.
Be kind until it's time not to be, right?
Honestly, it is like, and Roadhouse, great reference, by the way, I think we're same generation, grew up loving that movie, watched it 100 times. It'd be very similar, other than you weren't dealing with, obviously this would inspired my first film, The Union, the Business Behind Getting High, because our best patrons were the ones that were involved in the illegal cannabis industry at the time, right? That was a big business in BC. And at that time, getting cash into financial institutions was tough when you were a grower, right? So you had more disposable income than the average person that has to pay tax on their money, especially in Canada. We pay a truckload of fucking tax. So they're your best patron when they come in and they've just cropped out and they've got $3,000-4,000 to drop that night in cash. You love them. So you treat your growers, your drug dealers, your underworld associates, if we have you, they're your rock stars, because we didn't have like a Hollywood or something where they drop the money, right? Those were our stars, right, in the small town. And growing up, those were all the guys too that most guys wanted to be like, because when we grew up, a lot of the growers and stuff, they were good looking, they were well built, they had more time to work out because they didn't have to work a 9 to 5, they had excess cash, they had brand new Harleys, brand new boats, fancy cars, beautiful women. You're kind of like, I don't know. People say this crime doesn't pay shit, but I don't know. That guy looks like it pays and pays well, and he's living large. And then as a bar owner, I was like, this is where I kind of had conflicts, because I was like, well, everybody's like, oh, cannabis is bad and drugs are bad. I'm like, yet I'm giving them a drug, a very bad one, alcohol, right? Which is the cause of like 60% of domestic violence. Its addiction problems are horrible. It's off the charts, horrible for your body. But you're giving me cash for that, and I'm giving you another drug. So I really had that. I was like, what's really, this one's legal and we market it as sexy and cool, and the other one isn't, but really probably has less sociological issues and than the one I'm giving you. So, and I really saw, and those are guys, it was a small town, so you grew up with a lot of these guys. They weren't the villains that were portrayed in movies. You're like, man, that guy's like basically a farmer up in the hill that comes down every 6 to 8 weeks and dumps a truckload of cash because he wants a little bit of experience in life. So that's really how the union started, was how does this billion-dollar cannabis industry function while remaining illegal? And that became like, smuggling it to the United States and everything that comes with it, and how prohibition itself often creates, as we kind of started this, the Cobra effect, right? It's like prohibition itself often creates more problems than the substance itself. And then the industries and businesses built around that, private prisons, narcotics divisions and police, the incentives of like, well, now you're focused everything on narcotics instead of working on rapists, murderers, and pedophiles, because you get proceeds of crime assets. And so that's really how our first film, that's how I got into the film world, was a bit of an unorthodox path. Yeah. And that's what, and then I always kind of stayed in that lane. My team and I really liked unscripted. I dabbled in the scripted world a little bit, but found it's very different, right? You're dealing with actors and unions, and I just like the honesty of docs, right? I thought that they connect. They have often a longer connection, I find, with people. As you yourself, you saw the trailer and you're like, holy fuck, this is wild, right? I find a lot of them. I think in today's world, I think now, and this, I have no data for this, just my own speculation, but I think people are connecting to docs more than ever, because everything online seems fake. And even a lot of movies, you're realizing they kind of push political narratives subtly, even in scripted films, when you're kind of like, man, I don't want that shit. I just want to watch Marvel heroes kick some ass. I don't want to get into politics. Like, so I think docs, people are like, oh, that's just a real story. Like, I'm just connecting to a real situation that happened. So I think, and obviously it's much easier to access documentaries than ever before. They're streaming, they're available. It's easy.
You bring it up, but that's something that I've seen throughout my years in entertainment, doing the podcasting, doing documentaries, working on film, working and writing, all the things that I could possibly get my hands on. I'm a hyperactive, severely disabled gentleman. Listen, it's difficult for me to take anything slow. And I love the way you really present your documentaries, right? The first one, The Union, that to me, I'm a huge supporter and proponent for cannabis. Okay. I'm a huge advocate for medicines, alternative medications, whatever anybody want to have you, whatever it may be. I'm a hard, staunch supporter, because exactly what you're saying. The more we, I just started watching Boardwalk Empire, I think it was called. Which,
Oh, excellent series. Love it. The
so,
first 2 or 3 seasons are outstanding. Yeah.
so far,
Yes.
so good. I'm very much
Yeah.
enjoying it. But the prohibition, right? That concept of censorship, we were talking about the Cobra effect, that knee-jerk reaction that creates something based off of an incentive drive that's supposed to be good. And you're right, people are connecting to documentaries because they want to feel feelings. Like a figure.
Yeah.
And when I saw the trailer that you have coming out with Funny Money, Dane Cook, I was brought right back to 2006, right? I was just right back to that flush of when, here's Dane doing all these massive things. We just spoke with Barry Katz at the beginning of the year, and he was with him at that time as a
Yeah.
and I was just sucked back into that era. And I don't know what it was, but I for the love of me, love Dane's approach to his not just comedy, but his personality in character work and in film and everything. And so it really drove me kind of, I guess, back into that mindset of, oh my God, I'm so glad he's doing okay. Uh Also too, I didn't know what the fuck happened. Right.
Dude, no one really did. Even though it's funny because we've had this with several of our docs. People will be like, "Well, the characters told the story before, and they did a media thing." It's like, yeah, but it's not the same as one cohesive entertainment piece where you can just watch and go, "Oh shit, I didn't know." Plus, it reminds you, like even Dane's agents, because they're like younger people at CAA, when they were watching it, they're like, fuck, I didn't realize that he was like the biggest comedian on the planet in 2006. Like people were like, I knew he was in like Good Luck Chuck and like Employee of the Month and he'd done these things. And you also didn't realize, because this technology is not even around anymore, but like MySpace was the first. Before Facebook, before Instagram, before Twitter, before TikTok, there was MySpace. And what Dane did, he's the first. Everyone will tell you, even comedians that like, because there's rivalries that hate on him and try to like, oh, he's whatever. They will say he was the first to weaponize social media and was selling out arenas from 2006 to 2009. He was one of the first comedians going around North America selling out arenas. He even came here to Edmonton, Alberta, where I live now. He sold out Rexall Place in 2009. Then he went to the Saddle Dome. And so when he did Isolated Incident and Vicious Circle in Boston, he sold out, because he actually took the time. He was going on MySpace and he was writing hundreds of people every week. Thank you for coming to my show. I appreciate it. And a lot of people, there just wasn't as much content back there. So you're like, wow, here's a comedian. He's actually online. He goes on like once a week, connects with his fans on MySpace, writes people back. A lot of people, you see a lot of messages being like, man, I was going through bad times and you actually responded to me. I came to your show. You made me laugh. You helped me turn the corner. So like he connected in a way that you just probably won't have again, right? It was unique. It was in that time. Things have changed. They'll never happen again. He blew up. But then during all of that craziness with success, like everything in life, there's a yin and the yang. His best friend, his brother, was his manager, who we will tell in the doc. I'll give a little spoiler here. The whole reason Dane made his brother his manager was that his brother was a prison guard, right? Tried to become a police officer, couldn't make it, then became a correctional officer. And he got attacked in prison, got hit with a can and a sock and got hurt really bad, got blood, looked like he'd almost died, got knocked unconscious, got beaten by an inmate. And Dane said, no, I don't want you doing that anymore. I want you out of there. And he's like, Dane, you don't even make enough to support. Like, what are you going to do? Right. Comedy, really? And within 1 year, Dane not only made enough to give his brother a proper salary and allow him to quit being a prison guard, but blew up and became this global sensation. So he took his brother out of prison and then found out his brother took almost everything he had. $14 million. The number kind of fluctuates. His brother was charged for taking 12, also not paying tax on that $12 million he took from him. So Dane had to owe the CRA when he was getting robbed. He had to explain to them, like, look, that wasn't revenue. It was stolen from me. He was into a whole, like, just flipped his life upside down. You put your brother in as your manager. He's your best friend. You're supposed to trust him. Ultimate betrayal. Took just about everything he had. Took everything he had at the time. Dane said we explained the film. He had about 300,000 in stocks and stuff that his brother couldn't get. And that's what he like then booked his arena tour in 2009 to go back. Dane didn't even give himself time to like mourn or go over the process, but he also lost his mom and his dad within that 2-year period. So it was like everything great came and then crashing down. Your brother, your best friend betrays you. You lose both parents. And then, of course, what happens with fame? When you're at the top, there's only one place to go, right? Then people start hating on you. Oh, you're not even that funny. You know, you built your career on the wrong things and da-da-da-da-da. So, yeah, it took him where he finally was in a good place. He'd watched our other film that we did. We did Inmate #1, The Rise of Danny Trejo. And he was like, fuck, he loves docs. He's a big doc guy. and he reached out to my producing partner Rocky, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a story for you, right? I loved your Danny Trejo one. I've got a story that's going to blow your fucking mind, and I'm finally ready to share everything about it and go through it and relive it." Because also when you like hire the prosecutors, and he ended up putting his brother into the very jail that his brother was a correctional officer too. Yeah. Yeah, the same prison. Oh, it's crazy. Like if you were to script it, you're like, there's no way. Like his brother actually goes to the same prison he was a correctional officers in. It was like, yes, that's the prison he went to. He did. It is just an insane story, and Dane was going through discovery like us, because it's a whirlwind when it all happens, and you know, the betrayal and everything in the family. It was hard. The sisters are very emotional when we interview them, because none of them have really talked to the brother since then. And the one sister, Kelly, she tried to visit him in the prison. She's like, she's like, I didn't even recognize who that man was. I showed him a picture of our mother and said, "Do you remember her?" Like, and he's like, "Yeah, beautiful woman." She said, they all say he looked like a shark with black eyes, like just not there anymore. Something had switched in him, and they don't know, just a different person.
That's so hard to hear, right? It's not just what Dane went through, it's an entire family. And I think that's
Yeah.
what people forget, bringing up how well you speak with celebrities and all these different people, even the bikers and all the negative, or I don't call it negative, I just call it technically illegal by
Yeah.
people that voted it into policy and law that nobody,
Well, when we're all seeing, and speaking as a Canadian here, Joey, when we're all seeing how corrupt all politicians, don't give me red and blue, don't give me in Canada, we have conservative and liberal, all of them. They all, like, I look at the bike, I'm like, at least the bikers are putting an emblem on their back saying, like, I'll go to war to protect mine. And they don't pretend to put on something else. Politicians are almost worse than me, our leaders now, because they all pretend, "Oh, I'm great, I kiss babies." Meanwhile, fucking you 24/7, right? Every bill they put through, "Oh, we're doing this to help you." I like, it's like everything now. I'm so cynical now. When someone's like, "Oh, we're going to put more money into education," I'm like, "Why? Are you planning to steal it from the kids and go put it here?" Like, I honestly, it's so bad in both Canada.
Though, or is it pragmatism, right? I think at this point in time, right, we're older gentlemen now, so they don't have to play like the kids and say, oh, we gotta play nice. No, it's ridiculous every which way you look at it. And I think that's the reason why this documentary really, I don't know, like the trailer connected with me, and then bringing up the Danny Trail one as well, and the Dolph Lundgren, right? All these amazing projects, the award-winning one you did with Diff, the late
Biff Naked, yep, musician, yes.
all these beautiful things you're working on. I think people want and need that genuine and authentic connection to human spirit, right? And I think you're right. You hit it right in the nail on the head there. Politics aside, we need outcomes, okay? And journalism, documentaries, real storytelling, it creates an outcome in people. It refreshes and it reinvigorates and it teaches. And sometimes it doesn't teach, it reminds us, right? When looking at this art that you have going on, and kind of going into it, because we can talk politics all goddamn day, I promise.
Yeah.
But when you look at how you're piecing these things together and working with not only the talent, but like we said, the families, how do you go about that now, learning from that biker and stripper environment? How do you go about not just connecting with these people to share such a vulnerable story, but to do so well at it?
Well, thank you. That's the toughest. I think I always gravitate to, I think it's something that's lost in a lot of the storytelling for us now, is people are trying to do projects based on what they think will get funding. They're like, "Oh, this is a big topic, let's go get it right now." Mine, if you wanted to do a through line, a reviewer said this recently, is like, I'm always looking at that. I love that underdog story, right? Because then the regular person can connect. Sure, we want them to have a built-in audience. Like Dane Cook has a built-in audience, Dolph Lundgren, Biff Naked, Danny Trejo, they have a built-in audience that we know they're going to come to watch. But ultimately, they're all underdogs, right? Danny Trejo didn't get out of prison until he was like 40, right? And started his thing later. Dolph Lundgren actually had a Fulbright scholarship to MIT as a chemical engineer and threw it all away on the whims of being an actor, and landed the role of Drago, who was considered one of the greatest villains that isn't even really a villain, right? He was the hero for his country, coming to be like, right? He's not even really a villain. So it's and Biff Naked, you know, it's a travesty that she's not more well known in the United States, because she was the first like punk rock female with tattoos that flicked the bird to the establishment, that did it her way. And she lost record deals because of that. Like they were like, we can't see a tattooed punk rocker on the same label as Celine Dion, right? Like we cannot have that same. So those are the stories, because I like stories like I create things that I'm interested in, right? I don't try to go after a narrative because I think it's timely and it's what Netflix might pick up or what Amazon might do. They're like, oh, this is timely right now. Let's go do it, right? Like, sure, if that blends in with the underdog story, but you always want that, because that is, I mean, when I watch movies and grew up watching, like, I still see him as the original He-Man. And a lot of people make fun of that movie. I fucking love that movie. Like, to me, it was very simple. It was Skeletor, bad guy, He-Man, good guy, good journey, right? He's gonna fight the bad guy, right? And it was like, I like that. I like the under, like, so we try to put that in all of our film. We always want, no matter what subject we're going into, whether it's an athlete, a musician, or whatever, we want something that's deeper than what it is they do for a profession to connect, because that's what makes it special, right? And Dane had all of that, and we'd never done a true crime one before, so our director was really excited, right? That's my OG. That's my boy Brett Harvey. That I did my very first film with the Union. Then we did the Culture Eye. We did Ice Guardians. We did Annie Trejo. We did Breaking Olympia about Phil Heath. So Brett was like, "Ooh, this is really exciting to me. I've never done a true crime, so I'm really interested." And we all saying, like, we were from that ilk where we all remember Dane Cook. We remember the big movies. We remember the jokes. Like, he really thought he was the Burger King, right? And you're seeing that comment all over right now. It was like, people are like, fuck, Dane's brother really did think he was the Burger King, right? Try to steal his, like, so it's, he hit the zeitgeist differently. And I'm so excited for the world to see this film, because it's, and talking about even underdog challenges, like, those that have taken the time to watch it are like, this is Brett Harvey's best work. Or you're like, fuck, he nailed it. Like, even Dane hardly had any notes. And then when you go through a process, you do a rough cut, and then there's layers of notes and edits, and there really wasn't a lot. Like, the director fucking nailed it. But then, dude, we're submitting to film festivals thinking we're gonna premiere at Sundance and TIFF and South by Southwest, and then we're like, not accepted, not accepted, not accepted. We're like, really? What? We're like, why? And you couldn't even get a response. And then now, fortunately, seeing that, like, the response online after just a few days, like, just first when I think it was I can't remember who got the exclusive, like Entertainment Weekly or something, and then rolling, so then it was everywhere. And seeing it now, it's nice to see that this fantastic film that we all believe it is getting the response it deserves.
It is, and like, when I reached out to you, I was watching, I was like looking at it, and I was watching it, I was looking at it, and I think I watched the trailer maybe 10 to 15 times. I'm a very hardcore analyst. I'm a very weird person, technical knowledge wise.
Yeah.
Military. They used my autism constructively, right? And when I was watching it, I was just amazed by the rhythm, the tone, of course, the full scale production of it. But the theme, the story was so gripping. And by the end of it, I started looking everything up for Scorgie Productions and everything that you guys do. And I really jumped on it. And I'm like, Jesus, this is something that, you're right. I think a lot of the time, especially in Hollywood right now, the entertainment industry it's tumultuous, to say the least, right? There's so much opportunity in film and television and art and documentaries, journalism, podcasting, spoken voice, voiceover, you name it. And Hollywood doesn't know what to do because they're so used to doing what they want and treating people the way they want, not actually respecting, the craft, not actually respecting people that make it happen. I was reading a thing about studios. They take 80% of what the film makes, right? And 20% is delved up between whatever the waterfall distribution and, all that good shit. But hopefully it's not net profits, but whatever you get, right? And the goal of it, to me, is just, we're undermining the craftsmanship, the art, the truth, the depth of character, that genuine thing that human beings want. Even if we're in the age of AI, I've seen people tell better stories now in since the past 15 years. Your ability to capture the depth of the story, create that connection, and drive home a message in that single trailer, it was like, holy fuck, bro, this is the kind of shit that I would spend the rest of my life working on, helping promote, getting anybody's eyes on it. Because when you think about it, right, there's so many studios up for sale in LA right now, and Paramount's looking to go to Austin. I'm pretty sure it was Austin.
Yeah.
Think about that. That gap, what that's going to make in the industry in California alone, in Hollywood alone, San Diego, right? Viacom's down here in San Diego, I think. So I'm pretty sure Viacom owns Paramount. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, when you look at it, there's a lot of space for people like yourself to really step into and not just feel those shoes, but make them a brand new pair, right? And I love that energy. Just seeing, I guess what it did to me, right? It's like I'm a different type of person. People go like, "What do you do?" Like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, "Well, I'm a severely disabled combat veteran, right? I don't run with the title, but I live the life. I deal with all the things. I'm in the wheelchair now. My wife takes care of me. All these different things." And when I work or do podcasting or people or consulting and looking at what can we create, what can we manifest, how do we bridge the gaps, exactly what you were doing with those bikers and the strippers, how do we connect these dots? There's a lot of people with money coming in right now. How do I make, in realizing that they're all human, right? And once you break down that barrier, that veil of, I want to say, self deprecating falsities, right? Like, the is Dane Cook. I could never ask Dane Cook, dot dot dot. Or
Yeah.
It's Adam. I would never be able to ask Adam how to do this and that. But the truth of the matter is the culture in community, especially in Canada, in entertainment is massive. There's such a massive influence between Vancouver. There's the east side of it. I don't know how much stuff goes on there, but also Hollywood, right? Where there's this massive connection, creating great and amazing stories and doing things like this for not just for Dane Cook, but for the community. That back in 2006, dude, he was the biggest comedian, period. Right. In fact, MySpace is making a comeback. They should probably hear.
That's what he was saying. Dane was saying that. I was like, well, Joey, first off, I wanna thank you for all the kind words you said there, and thank you for your service. Even though I'm Canadian, I appreciate veterans big time. So and seeing it sounds like you paid the ultimate price there. So I appreciate it very good. Thanks for your service. And as you say, look, you reach out to me, and would I text back in like 5 minutes or something when you go? I try to be I try to connect with the audience. Because our first film, The Union, we kind of built our audience very similar to Dane. We had a lot of similarities with our pot doc that the industry kept saying nobody would watch and nobody cares. And then it became this global cult sensation now where and I like to do this for the listeners, anyone that's in front of their computer, don't take my word for it. If you Google top 10 cannabis documentaries ever made, The Union, The Business Behind Getting High is almost always on every list in the top 3. It's usually 1 to 3, or The Culture High, its predecessor, is the ones that are in there. Not bad for 3 guys in a basement suite in Canada that never created a movie before, right? And I think you hit the nails. Like, it's because we were not creating to try to what a studio thought would work. We were creating to what we discovered, because we were, I think, the best people to create a cannabis doc, because I was super anti-cannabis until I actually learned that all the shit I was told about was fucking propaganda, right? Like, I thought the same. Gateway drug is gonna make you do heroin, makes you lazy, all those things, right? Like, and it was before Joe Rogan became a cultural sensation. We interviewed him in that one. This is like the only people that knew Joe Rogan at the time there was for Fear Factor and UFC. And he comes on and he's like this brave, even like he is now. It's brash but honest. When he said, I believed all that bullshit too. I thought marijuana would make you lazy. He's like, you don't go around shutting down Burger King because it make you fat, right? He's like, I could take a fucking fork and jam it in my eyes. I mean, fork should be illegal. I could jump off a bridge. Let's nerf the world, right? Was his quote that's in the doc that people quoted and went on. But it was interesting. A lot of people had never seen Joe in that way. They're like, wait, is that the Fear Factor guy? Is that the UFC guy? Because he at the time was the only celebrity that we could get to go on camera that would openly talk about smoking weed. And then he's like, look, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I train every day. Sure as hell didn't make me lazy. He's like, the people that it makes lazy, pot just got there first. If it wasn't pot, it would have been fucking something else. It would have been candy or poor diet or booze. He's like, pot was just the first thing they found, which when we understand addiction, which we go into, and you realize that most addiction is underlying trauma that you're trying to self-medicate, whatever product it is you come in hand with is just the solution. You're trying to either run away from it, mask it, or like get by it, right? When you understand addiction. So, but I'm getting down the rabbit hole with that. But it's
By all means.
we are always trying to, with our docs, is trying to go by what the audience would like. I'm not trying to create, like, as studios and stuff have really taken for granted the audience in years, but now there's so much more content. You're competing better than ever. Your shit better be amazing, and you better respect your audience now, because it isn't like when we grew up and there was only like 4 or 5 movies in the theater. And remember going to the video store. I don't know your exact age, but you'd go and you're like, oh, there's nothing new on the shelf, right? Like there'd be like literally one new movie had come out. They'd have 30 copies of it and it'd all be rented out. So you go back to a classic. You're like, okay, well, I'll just rent Never Ending Story for the 10th time, right? Like I'm going to go back to a classic, right? I'm going to go back to
Talk about drama.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Kids movies were fucking scary back then. Like that was the first movie I cried to when Artex dies in the mud. That fucking made me cry, right? When Atreus begging him, Artex, please move.
Yeah, some assholes made a meme of it, right?
Yeah.
And like you get to watch it, and then assholes made a meme of it, made me remember all of those fucking horrible memories. Okay, and then some amazing soul did an AI where he survives. So it's a
He does. Oh.
you could reverse throw your brisk.
Well, you didn't see him at the end, right? When he's flying with Valcourt and he sees Atreyu and Artax again. So they brought him back at the end. But yeah, it's
good movie.
Oh, but you do see the other downsides. Is you often wonder when you're like, okay, you watch those old movies, and obviously the special effects and stuff were dated, but sometimes with them being dated, you had to be clever in the way you had to script them and think them out more, because you couldn't just show everything, right? You had to be very clever in how they were pieced together and how you didn't just give the audience anymore. And movies are often rushed a lot now. And again, that's where docs, they're not, because we're dealing with real life things. So like, we started working with Dane 4 years ago.
Oh my
Right.
God.
It took because we really wanted to sit down with his brother. So we spent a good year trying to track down his brother. And then we finally got a hold of him, and we talked to Dane's brother's son, Cody, who's a great kid in the military. And, is between a rock and a hard place. He's still friends with Dane. He's Uncle Dane. He was one of the ones that told Dane you should look out, because he said, when he was a kid, he goes, Dane, he's like, Uncle Dane, can I tell you something? And he's like, yeah, you can tell me anything, bud. And he's like, I was on my dad's computer and I went into Google and I put in how, and it said, how do you hide a lot of money? Right. Where it was like, it's sad. It's sad. You hit this on the top of the thing, is like, this didn't just hurt Dane, a celebrity, and it's might be like, oh, whatever, just as, dude, could you like, I couldn't imagine. I know how close I am with my brother. Like I wouldn't steal $100 from him, and then like to do that, and then just not talk to any of your family. Like his sisters, is the one sister Kelly's, like I had gone through therapy for years. The way I got over it is I just had to believe therapy said I just have to think my brother's dead, because I just don't know that guy I saw in the prison. I don't know who that guy is. He looked at me stone cold, had no remorse, and even at this point, Dane was like, if you sit down for the doc, because so his brother served the time. White collar crime, by the way, is a fucking joke. Absolute joke. It's a badge. You get a slap on the wrist. It's a joke. His brother, I think, got a total of 6 years, served 5.5. Like
12 million.
Yeah, it's a joke. And then restitution is like $50 a month. I think his brother's paid $2,800 in restitution total. Like it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So Dane was willing to, which he did. It's a joke. It's a joke. If you're going to do crime, you should do white collar crime. That's actually what the head prosecutor, Rick Grundy, said. He's like, look, I'm always pushing for, as a prosecutor, more time on white collar crime, because I think it's the one that's premeditated, that if the punishment serve the crime, we might prevent more people from doing it. Because murder or something like that, or crimes of passion, or you're just not mentally sane, no matter what the punishment is, you're not going to detour someone if they're not mentally right, or if there's a crime, they're still going to do violent crime, right? But a heist, if like, fuck, okay, 3 to 5 years, good behavior, I hide the money, put in offshore accounts, how bad is that? Whereas you're like, no, you go do this, you're going to get 20 to 30. You're like, fucking no amount of money is worth that, right? But it's a joke. It is an absolute joke. White collar crime, you get away with it like it's nothing. Like his brother's out now, and the Dane, with both his brother and the ex-wife Erica, he said, I'll wipe the restitution clean so you don't have to worry about it. $12 million I'll forgive. I just want you to sit down and tell me why you did it. And his brother originally did agree, and then he declined. But Erica, I'll give her props because we beat her up on the film for 6 hours. We go in there and I'll give a spoiler. It's really interesting because you're one of the first to read, is that you don't even realize that she is one of the villains in the film as it goes on. She seems very innocent at the start. And the director did this very clever where he just kept asking her questions pertaining to the case. And she plays a lot of negligence in it. But as it goes on, you catch her in her own thing where it's like, well, no, you must have known. You were signing checks for $100,000. Your husband only made $100,000. Where did you think this is coming from? And it was like, just builds. By the end, you start going, no, you're not that dumb. You knew what was going on. Don't play silly. It's brilliantly done. But it was 6 hours, exhausting interview, and she got very emotional. It's tough when you do that as a doc. I remember as soon as the interview was done and we gave her a ride home, I was bagged. Like, you would have thought that I felt like I'd stayed up till 4 a.m. because what this director does, Brett Harvey does, and I think it's something, if there's any documentary filmmakers listening out here, I think it's very beneficial. I know directors, they want to do everything. I want to write, I want to direct, I want to shoot, I want to edit. The more you can let it go, the more I think you can be a better director, direct those people. So what Brett and I have always done, just because it was the way we worked together for years and he kept it, is that Brett likes me to do the interview because I came from a film background. I'm comfortable in front of the camera. I do interviews and stuff all the time. So because there's a lot that goes into when you're doing a documentary interview, and I'm not really supposed to be there that much, but I'm trying to get emotion from you, right? Keeping eye line, making sure that my eyes aren't wandering, my eyes aren't going down to the next question while you're mid question. Otherwise you're gonna be like, you're not even fucking listening to me. Like there's a lot that goes into the interview process. So Brett likes to use me, but then as the interview goes, he operates the camera. So he can see kind of when emotions coming up, or when he can see they're getting riled or their eyes are twitching because they're nervous. And then he just lets me keep the eye line. And then he does certain things, like he'll squeeze my shoulder if he doesn't want me to respond, or he'll step on my toe so that I'm just continuing eye line, where he'll be like, don't say anything. Because you'll see in the film what Brett does brilliantly, that a lot of directors don't, is awkward moments of silence and pause, right, with characters, right, which I always feel is like so powerful in a doc, is silence or a moment of thought when you're not cutting things to be super super tight, when you're letting them, or you're catching them in a thing when you're like, well, actually, according to the court case, it said this, and there's it is, the interview is masterfully done. And when you see how it all came together in the final film, it is his best work, and I can't wait for the fucking world to see it. September 29th on all platforms, and then in November it'll be on the various streaming sites.
That's so amazing. And, that's something I really would like to kind of dip into. How do we support the film? How do we support Dane yourself, Scorgie Productions? And how do we proliferate the mission and message that you're building out, that not only are you doing the first true crime documentary, but it's a grand slam so far from what I can see in our conversation today. I'm not even much of a baseball person, but I'd like to use maybe like a hockey term, but I don't know hockey.
Hat trick. You can say hat trick, or winning the Stanley Cup, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's definitely, so it comes out September 29th. It'll be on platforms first, because kind of the way it goes now is there's a few limited theatricals. There's going to be a premiere. Actually, you know what? Seeing as you're just down south, why don't you come to the premiere September 18th? I'll get you and your lovely wife tickets. That will call that a thing. Coming to the world premiere will be at the Aero Theater in LA. I know that's a bit of a hike for you guys, but if you guys are willing to make it, I got tickets for you. And then it'll be closing night at the New York Comedy Festival in November, but it will be available to the world September 29th on all major platforms, which is Amazon, iTunes, Google, YouTube, you name it. When you search online, you'll be able to find it. It'll be rent and transactional first, because that's kind of how this game works nowadays, because we don't have a theatrical. So I get it. Times are tough. If you can't wait for that, come November, it will be on a major streaming site that I can't officially announce until they do. But you can have a guess of which one. There's like 4 major ones. It's going to be on one of them. So you can see it at those places. And both are hugely supportive for us. Like if you can afford to rent it and we top the charts early on Amazon and iTunes and stuff, fantastic. That always helps us. And we do get revenue kind of when you broke down that 80-30 split. You do, because like iTunes takes 30%, your sales agent takes another 20%, and then you're left with the limited. So I know when people are like, oh, I don't want to spend that money, I was like, trust me, only a couple bucks comes to the filmmaker, but we appreciate every single fucking one of you that does rent it or purchase it. Thank you. But if you can't, I get it. Hey, times are tough. I've got 3 kids myself, and they're all competitive athletes, so I'm grinding all myself. If you have to wait for streaming will be in November, and those ways can support too, right? Because if we hit those streaming numbers, if it can be a top 10 on one of the streamers in doc and stuff like that, that really, really helps our careers. So I wanted to bring something on. It was interesting though when you talk about the grind, when it was so interesting early on. You were talking about how the industry doesn't, they're usually like a politician. When the wind blows and they feel it hitting, they're like, oh, we knew from the start it was a hit, right? But they don't know. When we were going out, which was so weird, because we're like, man, we have this unicorn. We have a crazy true crime story that was like in the zeitgeist like 10, 20 years ago. And it's about a celebrity. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like a lot of them, like you have a great true crime, but it wasn't really, it was just an unfortunate couple that were robbed or worse, murdered or something, but violent crime. Right. But it wasn't a celebrity. And then we were going out, like we get these reviews and they're like, we love it, man. This is such a unicorn. It's not a biodoc, but it's a true crime. And then we're like, awesome. Like, yeah, but we're going to pass because we don't know how to deal with it, because they want formulaic, right? They're like, if it was a murder, oh, this is our thing. So Dane joked on the one call with one of the big studios when they're like, if it was a murder, this would be the top of it. Like, we'd be giving you the biggest offer ever. And he's like, oh, so I should have killed my brothers, what you're saying, instead of putting them in prison, right? Right away, the comedian's coming out, right? Where it was like, we're all laughing on the phone, but we're like, wow, that's kind of dark. But he's like, fuck, what do you? And it's nice to see now it's getting the release and the response it deserves. Cause like, that's another year why we were delayed, is like, we had some really good people. We had Rob Light, one of the senior partners at CAA, really fight for us and be like, guys, you need to rewatch this. This thing's fucking incredible. I'm in the industry for 20 years. He's like, this doesn't need any fucking editing. It doesn't need, because that happens too in the industry. You go out and you get some no's, right? You don't get into Sundance. You don't get into South by Southwest. You don't get into TIFF. Then you start second guessing yourself. Like, oh, well, should we shorten it? Maybe it's not that good. Maybe this section's too lengthy. Thanks. I'll give major props to Rob Light at CAA, senior partner, been there for decades. His email is like, don't change a fucking thing. This film is fantastic. I've been doing this for years. I am going to fight for Dane like nobody else's business. And you hear a lot of bullshit in LA, like, oh, I'm going to fight for you. I'm your agent. I'm your guy. He did. He went to bat to the major streamers. He fucking went out for lunch with them. And he's like, you need to watch this, because some of your people are below. They didn't know who Dane Cook was. They didn't watch it. They maybe clicked on, and we know this because we put codes on our streaming things when you send it to them, right? And they'll be like, oh, it's a pass. And you're like, well, could you watch more than the first 30 seconds? You might get a better sense of it because you can track that, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, well, we track the fucking link. You watch 30 seconds. How can you make so like, it constantly happens, right? So, but thanks to Rob Light, he made the right people watch it. And then they were like, fuck yeah, this thing's incredible. Like, how did we miss it? And we're like, because your people didn't watch it, right? So thankfully it's getting the release it deserves. So that's the long, passionate story of how you can support the film. Is September 29th, I said 28th or 29th. It'll be available on all major platforms. If you can't afford to rent it or purchase it, then watch it on the big streamers, which will come in November. You just have to wait longer. So that's the downside. You can pay and get it sooner, or you can wait and then you can watch it then.
Yeah, listeners, pay and get it sooner. That way we all know the story, and I don't have to spoil things for you.
Yes.
Man, I really want to know, how do we get in contact with Scorgie Productions and see more of your wonderful work?
Well, thank you. You can follow me. I'm just Scorgie, and it's a play on my name. My name is spelled Scorgie, but it's pronounced like score space big G. So that's my handle. On Instagram is probably the best. That's how you reached out to me, right? Link Joey, you just poked me on Instagram and I replied. That's usually the best one. We have Scorgie Media, which is my one there too, at Scorgie Media. We have our website too, scorgieproductions.co. You can reach out to the team there. Pretty approachable. Joey, as you saw, if I'm not watching my kids on the jujitsu mats or my daughter playing hockey, I'm usually available. As self-proclaimed creative hustler, I will always try to get back to anyone that reaches out in a polite, organized manner. I have learned, took me a first couple of years where, negativity, I used to respond to it. I don't anymore. So if you're going to be a miserable bastard online, then I just don't reply, right? Like if you're going to be cool, like, hey, and I get it. My work's not for everyone. If you're like, didn't dig it, I respect that. My work isn't for everyone. But early on in your career, you get really offended when you work so hard on some people like this fucking movie sucked. You're like, bro, I killed myself. But you know what you find yourself doing is that you'll get thousands of compliments, but you'll fixate. This is actually something I learned from Joe, is like the post and ghost, is like you'll fixate on the one negative one. You're like, what? What? I got all this positive. And then I would take the time to reply to the negative one. And now I'm like, no, no, no. I'm going to reply to all the people that took the time to write something nice, that know how hard it is to create something and get it out there and try to inspire the world in a positive way with underdog stories. So I don't respond to negativity. And honestly, there hasn't been I've been looking at the comments. It's been really weird the last 2 days. And I'll take this as a true blessing between both Dolph Unbreakable and this. Honestly, the comments have been like 99.8% positive. It's been amazing, where it's like, I think you just realize how much both of those individuals really affected people's lives. Like Dolph, obviously in a different way, right? And Dane in comedy. It's amazing reading how many people being like, you were the first comedy special I went to. You were the first person on social media I started. And then all the quotes coming up, the pickles and like the old jokes from Dane and like the Kool-Aid guy, like just people relating those. I'm like, those are the jokes I grew up on, right? Like it just is. Both of them really did hit the zeitgeist in a beautiful way. And it's nice to see Dane is already full circle, and that's why he was willing to tell this story. But I know it's been nice for him just to be like, oh man, my comedy really did inspire people in a lot of ways, because it's almost weird. It's weird the way the algorithms work, because now it seems like so many people didn't even know. They're like, man, I didn't even know you're online, and like now I'm following you. Like I have all your comedy CDs. I just listened to you last week. I didn't know this happened to you with your brother, and so it's pretty cool. That's my favorite part as a filmmaker, is when you see your film like affect people globally, and you watch it in a theater and you're seeing people laugh or get emotional. And I better say this before we close out, is that there's also a lot of really funny moments in the film. Dane was very adamant. He's like, look, I can make fun of myself at this point. Like, what idiot gives their brother power of attorney to sign everything? This one right here. Don't do what I did, right? Like, so there's he's really able to, he made points that, like, although it's dark and what happened, he's able to make fun of himself, that he's like, I don't know what I was thinking giving my brother power of attorney, but don't do what I did. So it will take you on one hell of an emotional roller coaster, and I can't wait for the world to see it.
I'm so jazzed about that, man. Really, 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 I am. I'm so glad that we were able to share, a bit about your journey and your pathway to get to this point here. Getting kicked in the teeth sucks for anybody, right? But when you're sucking, winning, whistling, all you can do is have a good time, right?
Well, that's what creative hustle. Like, look, everybody's going to have their challenges, right? That's it. I try to not to be preachy when I talk, and just straight, like, I am not the guy that should have succeeded. I'm a former strip club owner that lost his dad at 23. I was wronged by partners and stuff too. I had childhood friends that were like, oh, we don't need proper contracts. We're brothers. We're not going to totally screwed you, right? Had to start from ground zero. My daughter's, born. We have negative $500 in my bank account. I've sunk $250,000 into my first film, The Union, which everybody said, you're making a cannabis doc. You spent 4 or 5 years on this. They're starting to think I'm crazy. So I've been through the grind where I could barely afford to pay rent and mortgage on my car and stuff like that, or rent and then mortgage on your car, your car insurance, and get Ford gas. And now I'm not going to say I'm killing it, but I'm doing it. I can live now where I can tell the stories I want. I can put my kids through the competitive sports and stuff they want to do. And I don't have to do stories that I don't think are going to be inspiring myself. Like, I get to tell, I don't have to do that corporate gig to be like, oh my God, this is sticking needles in my eyes and this is a horrible message, but I need the money. I don't have to do that. But years of being told I was crazy, I should get a real job, this film thing was fun, you did good on your first one, but you should give it up. I've been through it all, just like everybody else. Like, I think most people go through that grind. It's a different story. Like obviously you as a veteran went through things that I can't relate to. I just know that you went through your own grinds, but I think we all do. And that's why I love the underdog stories is I like to explain them because I like this all to have that little bit of hope. When I watch the movie, there's always that little bit of hope, right? He-Man would beat Skeletor, right? That, you know, the Italian stallion does beat the Russian experiment, right? It can be done, right? And that's where us as creative hustlers and people doing our thing. Look, you got a successful podcast. You reached out to this crazy former strip club owning producer in Canada, and he replied right back, and we're chatting, right? So it's I'm glad. I really appreciate you reaching out, Joey, and having the time and promoting my films. It means a lot, brother. I appreciate it.
Anytime. And that's something that we will wrap up with. Anytime you guys need anything in promoted or conversating, this is an open door. We're bridging gaps now multinationally, right, with Canada. Come on, guys. We've been globally distributed for about 13, 14 years now. So I love sharing these types of stories and people like yourself because it is exactly what you're saying, that shred of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. We can't allow ourselves, society or entertainment, to fade into the abyss of algorithms and AI, right? So I'm so glad. I'd really like to kind of end on any kind of shout outs and last words for our audience to take home.
I just I want to thank my team, and I always do this a lot. My team jokes are like, "Man, you do it too much," but it's like, you know, at the end of every film, there's all those credits, right? And a lot of people know the director, they know the producer, and they know the talent, but man, I'm only as good as my team, and my team is fucking world class. And we produce out of Edmonton, Alberta. And for those that might not know, the only reason you know Edmonton is probably for the Edmonton Oilers if you're a hockey fan, but it is the most northern Arctic town. It's like a million people. It's a blue collar town. They tell you can't make films here. My team consistently does. They go in the trenches with me. It's like traveling with a band or a family. If you want to go check any of our works, we'd appreciate all of them. I promise you, each one will bring something different, and you'll come out of it being like, man, that's really cool. Didn't know it. Biff Naked's available right now. She's a Canadian rock legend. It should be in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. We're working on that with the doc to help her. Inmate Number One, The Rise of Danny Trejo, fantastic film. A guy that, you know, was facing execution in San Quentin, turned his life around and became, you know, this from ex-con to icon, you know, in the movie world. And thanks for having me on. Joey, we'll have to do it again and talk about Dolphin Breakable, which is coming in October as well. So talk about that one. If he dies, he dies.